4.5, 96.5, and 580 WCHS.
9:03, 66 degrees and cloudy in the capital city. Good morning. I'm Carrie Hudasek in the 580 WCHS radio newsroom. The Metro News AccuWeather forecast says cloudy and much warmer today with a high of 75. Much more in the forecast following the news. Kanawha County authorities are investigating after two bodies were found in separate locations. One body was found along Charles Avenue in Dunbar on Wednesday night, and at around 8 this morning, a body was found near the railroad tracks near the Charleston Work Release Center on Hansford Street in the city's warehouse district. Police say that death appears to be the result of an overdose. A major drug bust in the capital city. U.S. Attorney for West Virginia's Southern District, Will Thompson, says they conducted the largest meth seizure in state history.
We don't have the exact poundage yet, but it is the largest methamphetamine seizure in West Virginia history. It was significantly over 200 pounds.
Federal and local law enforcement handed down 30 indictments in Charleston Wednesday. Kanawha County Sheriff's Chief Deputy Joe Crawford says their job isn't over yet.
There's more to come, I assure you. If you think you're going to come to Charleston, you're gambling. Roll the dice and see where you end up. Because if you're coming here to deal drugs, chances are you're going to be on the wrong side.
Authorities say in addition to the meth, they recovered 18 firearms and thousands of dollars in cash. A new Chick-fil-A restaurant in Kanawha County officially opens to the public today. Chick-fil-A is the first tenant to open its doors at the new Park Place Plaza along McCorkle Avenue in South Charleston. It's the third in Kanawha County. South Charleston Mayor Frank Mullen says they're expecting a big crowd.
I think what separates Chick-fil-A a little bit is how much they're involved in the community. So I expect a crowd when you go down there. It's going to be, I'm sure it's going to be very busy. We're going to have some police officers nearby as well in case they need any help with traffic and things.
The city is also planning to break ground on a Starbucks at Park Place in the coming months. And it's day 2 of the West Virginia Construction and Design Expo at the Charleston Coliseum and Convention Center. It's 9:05.
We call ourselves Logan's Roadhouse for a reason. We're not an overly fancified steakhouse. We don't do stuffy dress codes or snobby attitudes. We make great food and serve it up with a big smile. So if you're in the mood for quality mesquite grilled steak, big basket of scratch-made rolls, and hearty home-style sides, make Logan's your next stop. We'll serve you up a warm welcome, ice-cold beer, and a delicious meal. Logan's Roadhouse. We know steak.
What do you mean he went searching for fresher powder? We have full classes today.
Instructor down at Vesper Ski School.
Toward each other to snowplow, honey, not away.
She needs more ski instructors to slalom through the day-to-day.
Pizza, fries. Whoa, Braley, no, pizza.
Indeed can help her hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. We instantly connect you with quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job description. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
The Metro News AccuWeather forecast today, cloudy and warmer, high of 75. Tonight, cloudy and mild with a couple of showers, then steadier rain, low 56. Tomorrow, we'll continue to see rain, high of 60. And then Saturday, mostly cloudy and windy, mild with a couple of showers. The high will be 75. It's 66 degrees and cloudy in the capital city at 9:06. I'm Carrie Hudasek, and you're listening to 580 WCHS, the voice of Charleston.
As it will slash about 2,200 positions, or about 15% of the workforce. The CEO says he'll take a pay cut of 25% to base pay. Another company that may have made your keyboard or mouse is also laying off workers. Logitech is cutting around 300 people as part of a reorganization. Revenue collapsed after a pandemic boom when computer equipment was in demand while people worked from home. It was a lower close for Wall Street. Declines right across the board came in at around 1.6%. As expected, the Fed boosted interest rates by 0.25%, but Chair Jay Powell pushed back against bets for rate cuts this year as the Fed continues to battle inflation. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen told lawmakers the government was not considering blanket deposit insurance to stabilize the banking system. That sent financial shares lower. Gina Cervetti, Bloomberg Radio.
The views and opinions expressed on this program do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of 580 WCHS, its employees, or WVRC Media. 580 Live is presented by Thornhill Automotive and is broadcast live from the Parmar Stores studio. The country, the United States of America. The state, West Virginia. The city, Charleston. This is 580 Live. And your host of 580 Live.
What we've got here is failure to communicate.
He's kind of a big deal.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass, and I'm all out of bubblegum.
Dave Allen.
Had a good Thursday morning to you from the Par-Mar Store studio. It's 580 Live and the voice of Charleston, WCHS. Ryan Nicholson, our producer today. Piggly Wiggly hotline, 304-345-5858. Fruit Pharmacy text, 304-935-5008. 580 Live. Brought to you by the Thornhill Auto Group. The spring sales event continues now at Thornhill Toyota. Come check out the all-new 2023 Tundra and the all-new, it's a new vehicle, Toyota Crown, and more at the all-new Thornhill Toyota. Visit thornhilltoyotawv.com and on the Thornhill Motor Mile US 119 to Chapmanville. And we do the show from the Par-Mar Store studio. If there's not a Par-Mar store near you now, there will be soon, including the latest Par-Mar location just opened yesterday, 1117 Hal Greer Boulevard in Huntington. Remember, there's not a Par-Mar store near you now. There will be soon. Well, something that is happening here in the area, and you probably, if you're on social media, you've probably seen all the pictures of the new Chick-fil-A that has opened up in South Charleston. And we're going to talk to the owner-operator of that particular Chick-fil-A coming up a little bit later on in the show. Also, serious news, a major drug bust in West Virginia yesterday. I mean, the biggest meth bust in the history of the state of West Virginia. Carrie Hudasek from the newsroom is going to join us to talk about that as well. Plus your phone calls and texts are welcome. Piggly Wiggly hotline, 304-345-5858. Fruit Pharmacy text, 304-935-5008. Without further ado, though, I want to welcome to the show the State Democratic Party Chair and Delegate, Michael Pushkin.
Good morning.
How are you, man?
I'm doing great. Good to see you.
You're doing, are you doing well? Everything all right in your world?
Yeah, I'm doing, yeah.
All right. Well, I'd like to check on you. Just make sure you're okay.
I appreciate the concern, but yeah. Doing good. And if I wasn't, I wouldn't complain on here.
No, you would not. No, you would not. You're a professional. Let's get to the most important topic first. Now that the Jets apparently have Aaron Rodgers.
We don't have Aaron Rodgers.
But it's looking like you're going to have Aaron Rodgers. Is it too early to call for a Jets-Cowboys Super Bowl next February?
I don't know about the Cowboys, but I'm planning on going to see the Jets beat somebody in the Super Bowl.
Okay. You think so?
Yeah,
Hope springs eternal.
Exactly.
When you're a Jets fan and a Cowboys fan, it's always next year. And well, the Cowboys beefed up their wide receiver core, picked up Crooks, I think, from the Texans. And
he's good.
But we let Ezekiel Elliott go. I'm hearing Elliott may go to Buffalo. That's what I'm hearing.
He could. The Jets have talked to him as well. Mm-hmm. But no, there is no deal yet for Aaron Rodgers. Yeah. I think the Packers are asking for too much.
Well, and Aaron Rodgers is asking for a lot too. He came in for something I was reading online, and we're not going to talk about sports the whole show.
We could.
But we could. But Rodgers, from what I understand, went in with a list and said, these are the players that I need.
That's not exactly true. They came to him and they asked him which free agents that he would let. Right. I don't know. I think Rodgers gets a lot of bad press, but when you actually watch interviews with him or listen to interviews with him, he seems okay.
He was a little loopy the last couple of years.
You know what? He's one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time.
He is.
And he'll come into the Jets being their best quarterback they ever had. He has better numbers.
Yeah.
I mean, he has better numbers than Joe Namath. Yeah. So, and the same amount of Super Bowls.
He's no Ken O'Brien. I like to throw out these 70s and 80s football references.
No Browning Nagel, that's for sure.
All right, you got me on that one. All right. Well, what's on your mind, Mike?
A lot of suffering as a Jets fan. I can tell you all the mediocre and bad quarterbacks we've had. What's on my mind?
I got Quincy Carter. For every one that you bring up as a Cowboy fan, I'll say Quincy Carter. Okay. Yeah. All right, but go ahead. What's on your mind, man?
Well, we just finished up the legislative session. I've been, decompressing, going over some of the bills that did pass, what didn't pass. Waiting for the governor to sign certain bills. He's signed quite a few. Signed one yesterday. We can talk about that.
Yeah, talk about that. You and I were talking before the show. You said you wanted to kind of weigh in on what was signed yesterday.
Well, what it does, it's like this West Virginia First Foundation, and I voted for it. I think just about everybody voted for it. But I do have some concerns because really what it does, it takes a large sum of money, which is the money we would bring in from these opioid settlements. And it could very well put it in the hands of a very small amount of people. So you're taking a large sum of money that needs to be used to address the drug crisis that has hit this state harder than any other state. And I don't think that's even debatable. Mm-hmm. And it takes the settlement money and puts it into this into a fund which would be controlled by a very small group of people. And we're not sure who the governor has assigned to be on that committee yet. And I'm just looking at the governor's track record in his spending of public funds, and it's not great. I mean, you had, starting with the RISE program back during the floods of 2016, to the federal relief money was not spent quickly. It wasn't spent well, and there were a lot of problems over that. You had people that were living in FEMA trailers while the governor was sitting on the money. And then you go on to the beginning of the coronavirus, when President Trump and Congress, to their credit, sent CARES Act funds, and the governor didn't spend that. Wound up spending it on the baby dog truck sweepstakes. I don't think that was a prudent use of that money. Now the legislature just handed back $500 million of ARPA funds to the Economic Development Office, and I don't think that's the proper use of that money. Like, I'm all for economic development. I think that Mitch Carmichael has actually done a very good job over there in bringing a lot of businesses to the state. But that, hand in hand with Congress passing the Inflation Reduction Act, the American Rescue Plan, that have allowed us to invest in infrastructure. But taking the virus relief money from ARPA, which is supposed to go to the communities that have been hit hardest by the pandemic, and just putting it into blindly putting it into the Economic Development Fund, I don't think that's first of all, I'm not convinced it's a legal use of the money. So take that, and then you with the bill signing yesterday, which is basically the same thing, saying we're going to take a very large sum of money that comes from these opioid settlements and put it into under the direction of a very small group of people. And then you couple that with the bills that passed this last session that made it harder, aimed at making it harder for people to get drug treatment. When you're going to say we're going to put a cap on the amount of treatment beds we can have in each county. And then they had another bill talking about the drug settlement money. Luckily, the House Judiciary killed the bill, but that was about putting a cap on nuisance claims. Okay, well, that's the type of claim that was going against these big pharmaceutical companies to get these settlements. So on one hand, the governor and Republicans in the legislature were pushing a bill to cap the amount of settlements, cap the amount of help people can get, and then they want to pat themselves on the back for a bill of how they're going to spend the drug settlement money. It's unfortunately a lot of times with this governor, it's like one hand doesn't know what the left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing, and both of the hands belong to the governor.
That's promo material right there. See, that's why I like having you on. All I got to do is say, Mike, what's on your mind? And you just kind of take it from there. That's all I got to do.
You got to stop me at something.
Well, no, I don't know why. You're on a roll, man. All right, so let me ask you about the funds. I had Senator Tarr on the show yesterday, and Senator Tarr has asked for an inquiry from the Treasury Department and other officials in Washington to look into it, to how the governor spent the money, and including the Marshall Baseball Stadium.
And you're talking about CARES Act.
Yeah,
this is not the American Rescue Plan. This is the money that came, the first batch of coronavirus.
But I want to ask you your opinion of that. Is that something that you and Senator Tarr would be on the same page on?
I can't think of any other thing other than that where Senator Tarr and I are on the same page. But yes, I'm in agreement with Senator Tarr on this. There needs to be a federal investigation of how that CARES Act money was spent.
In one segment, and I got a call to get to in several texts already, one segment, you have complimented Donald Trump, Senator Tarr, and Mitch Carmichael.
Wow. New record for me. You know what? I mean, give credit where credit's due. Right. And the other thing, a broken clock is right twice a day.
and you had to add that in there. Let's go to the phones and let's talk to James. You're on with Delegate and Chairman Mike Pushkin. Go ahead.
Well, I'm glad to be on there with Mike because I know he'll tell me the truth.
All right.
I want to change the subject a second.
Okay.
And on this state income tax cut that the legislature has approved and was signed by the governor, I've heard rumors, and I don't know if it's true, but I know you won't tell me a story. I've heard the middle class is not going to, or the retirees is not going to benefit by this tax cut.
Well, you're absolutely correct. Because it's an income tax. It's a cut to the income tax. So it's not going to affect retirees. And it disproportionately, a cut to the income taxes by nature is going to disproportionately help the very top earners. I think that the top 40%, the top 20% get about 60% of the tax breaks because it's income tax is based on how much money you make, and when you're a retiree, it's not going to It's not going to affect. It's not going to help the retirees at all. What the Democratic proposal, which of course they didn't listen to at all, but the Democratic proposal would have been 100% reduction. 100% elimination of the income tax for earners who make $80,000 a year and less. So that would have been for middle income earners. But now what you have is a very small cut for people who make $80,000 or less. But by proportionally, that 26% is a lot more to a billionaire. That's a whole lot of money to a billionaire when you're talking about 20% of their income tax.
And I appreciate you for being honest.
I appreciate the question. Now, you talked about retirees. I think that's something that we need to talk about as well, is something that the legislature has failed to do for many years, and that's a cost of living adjustment for our retirees. They've been living on a fixed income for years. There's now been the governor just signed a bill to increase the PEIA premiums. That's really going to affect the retirees who aren't on Medicare yet, retirees who aren't 65 yet. And in the same year they did that, the legislature prioritized giving themselves a huge pay raise, a top-heavy pay raise at that, one that's going to help Craig Blair more than anybody. Those who can claim duty days, there's a huge increase in that. It's going to put him well over six figures by my calculations, because they give themselves a big pay raise while they raise the premiums on public workers. And the thing that really is really burns me up about this whole thing is they put a built-in cost of living adjustment into the legislative pay raise. So it goes back every year, and it's based on an average income. They gave themselves a cost of living adjustment, but they can't find it in their hearts to do that for our public retirees. Haven't done it for years. But it's something that gets introduced every year. It's introduced by Democrats every year, the cost of living adjustment for our retirees. But they won't put it on a committee agenda. It needs to happen.
Thank you.
All right, James, I appreciate your phone calls. A lot to unpack there, Mike. And let me knock out a few texts, and we'll take a break. And I'll have you stick around for another segment. All right, that's a text about the Cowboys, so we'll leave that one alone. Text says, Mike, I'm a lifelong conservative, and I'm disappointed in the. Let me start this again. Mike, I'm a lifelong conservative, and I am disappointed in the super majority in what they're not doing. For instance, doing nothing to address the foster care crisis. But that's just the tip. That's something that you have. Yeah, you've talked about for some time.
We've worked around the edges of that. But the problem is with so many of our issues with state government is we're not able to attract people to work in the public sector. We don't have enough people working for CPS. We don't have enough teachers in our classroom.
2,000.
We don't have enough correctional officers. And our jails and correctional facilities are at crisis level. Okay, for now almost a year, we've been under a state of emergency, having the National Guard staff our prisons, and we weren't able to do anything to address that. Instead, what the legislature prioritizes is raising the premiums on public workers, which is going to make it harder to attract. That exacerbates the problem. That makes it worse. It makes it harder.
Premiums hadn't been raised for a long time, though. I mean, how long? When's the last time premiums were raised for public employees?
Well, when's the last time they had a real significant pay raise? I mean, the problem is when you go to work in the public sector, you're told. The pay's not great, but the benefits are.
Holidays.
They've gotten less and less great. In fact, they're not great at all. PEIA is not a great deal, and now we're raising the premiums with this shell game of saying we're going to give them a pay raise. Well, it's not a pay raise if you immediately take it away and you're kicking the family off of the family plan.
But it's not sustainable, Mike. It's not sustainable.
It's not sustainable because they won't do the courageous thing and they won't do the smart thing, and that's to have a designated funding stream, permanent funding stream for PEIA. But it's all a matter of priorities. It's all a matter of priorities. They will give the tax cuts to the wealthiest 1% of West Virginians. They will give tax cuts to out-of-state corporations, but they can't find it in their hearts to do a cost of living adjustment for people who have put in the time and have taken care of us for years, and our public retirees. They can't do that. And back to we were unable to. The texter was texting about the foster care crisis. Over 7,000 children in the system. And they can't make that a priority. And part of the problem part of the problem is we don't have enough people working in the public sector working for CPS. You're not going to get more people working there by making the benefits less desirable, by raising the premiums.
But I mean, I think my point I was trying to make is and I understand completely what you're saying, and it is 100% a crisis. You and I are on the same board there. But again, the premiums hadn't been raised in so long, and now you're facing like the hospital in Wheeling and several other people saying, we're not going to take PEIA anymore. So what are you supposed to do?
You have to designate a permanent funding stream. You actually have to fund it, not just patching it up every now and then like the governor has done in the past.
Well, let me read this section. We'll go to break. Dave, please talk to Mr. Pushkin about the serious condition of our bridges due to a lack of maintenance program and what he will do to solve the problem. Give me 20 seconds.
Well, you don't fix them by congratulating. What the governor and the Republican legislature has done for years is they passed a budget before the session's over. It's a flat budget. Now talk about what a great job they did by passing a flat budget. Well, you're unable to, and then the bridges are in disrepair, and then our jails are overcrowded. It's just all these different problems we have in the state, and you're not going to be able to fix that by passing a flat budget and then, hamstringing yourself in the future by doing this huge tax cut for the wealthiest West Virginians and for out-of-state corporations. It doesn't add up.
Phone calls to 580 Live, a service of Bigly, Piggly, Wiggly, and our texting service is provided by Fruth Pharmacy, your hometown family pharmacy. It's always fun when Mike is here, and I got more texts to get to, plus I want to get in his take on this whole state police thing coming up as well. From the Parmar Store studio, it's 580 Live, brought to you by the Thornhill Auto Group on the Voice of Charleston, WCHS.
Brought to you by the Eric J. Tarr Family Businesses. Eric J. Tarr Family Businesses live to make life better for you and your family.
Let's go places. The spring sales event is here, and now's the time to discover your new Toyota. Hey, it's Sydney from the Thornhill Motor Mile inviting you to the all-new Thornhill Toyota with new Toyota product arriving daily with the most wanted models, including the all-new 2023 Toyota Tundra and Crown. Discover your new Toyota today with Thornhill. Tag your new or used Toyota with Thornhill and get absolute top dollar for your trade. Say hello to your new Toyota at ThornhillToyotaWV.com and on the Thornhill Motor Mile, US 119 Chapmanville. Ready, set, go Thornhill. See Thornhill for all details.
Dress in your best bling and black looks while raising money for WVU Medicine's new ED expansion. The Better Together Annual Foundation Gala Bling and Black Ball is Saturday, March 25th at the National Armed Forces Reserve Center in Millwood. Doors open with cocktails and hors d'oeuvres at 5:30. Dinner served at 6:30. Enjoy entertainment by the Stone Street Band, plus a silent auction and dancing. Call 304-373-1597 to register today. The WVU Medicine Better Together Annual Foundation Gala, Bling and Black Ball, Saturday, March 25th.
Hey guys, it's Jim Strawn for Gonzo Burger. Looking for Canal Valley's best burger? Taste the difference quality makes. Gonzo Burger, located in the heart of Elk City on Charleston's west side, 207 West Washington Street. You'll love their custom handcrafted burgers, and there's something for everyone. Go to gonzoburgerwv.com and click order online. Dine in or have delivered to your office. 304-343-9688.
Hey, it's Dave Allen for Parmar Stores. Have you signed up for the Parmar app yet? If not, what are you waiting for? A simple download of the Parmar app can save you big bucks at the register and at the pump. It's easy. Download the app and get ready to save. You can also sign up for the Parmar Rewards Card. We have over 210 stores in 5 states, and we continue to grow, all in an effort to better serve you. Parmar is the official store of high school sports in West Virginia, and we are the official convenience store of Marshall University. Come see us today, and remember, if there's not a Parmar store near you now, there will be soon.
Make a statement with a case knife, a symbol of American craftsmanship. Find your perfect match at Riley's Tools, 204 Main Street in St. Albans.
927, 580 Live, presented in part by Meeks Realty Group. Our area's most beautiful properties deserve the finest realtors. Meeks Realty Group. Visit them online, meeks.us, or call 304-440-1101.
Was it that text you had earlier about the Cowboys? Was that from Ray Whiting?
I have no idea. I don't know who.
I know he's an avid listener, and I know he's a huge Cowboys fan.
Oh yeah. He's that. He's a Cowboys fan. Let me see. Let me knock out a couple texts, and I know I wanted to get your take on the state police thing and a couple other things as well. Dave says a texter, yesterday you talked about home ownership. One thing that's driving up housing prices and depleting available housing is short-term rentals, such as Airbnb, Vrbo, etc. So, question for Pushkin: is there anything Democrats have planned or can do to alleviate the issue before it severely prohibits people from owning homes?
Well, there was a bill that went the opposite direction that we were able to actually, all the Democrats were in agreement on this, I believe, and we helped kill the bill. It actually would have kind of deregulated these short-term rentals. It would have made it so municipalities had absolutely no control over these types of. Actually, it went further than that. The way I read the bill, it said they would not be able to regulate rental property at all. But it was aimed at really helping Airbnb and Vrbo, whatever it's called. But I think it would have been really detrimental to our municipalities, and luckily we were able to stop it.
Text says, tell Mike if he thinks he can find insurance on the open market that can compare to PEIA. Even now, with the increase, he will be disappointed, and if he can, show me, and I'll stand corrected and might switch.
You know what? I used to be on PEIA. I drove a cab for a very, very long time, and that doesn't, I was an independent contractor. So when I was elected to office, I was able to get on PEIA, and it wasn't a great deal. And as soon as I was able to get off of it and get, I'm not going to name the insurance company I have now, and I'm not exactly thrilled with them either. But it's a better deal than PEIA. So no, PEIA is not such a great deal anymore, and especially when they're jacking up the premiums, on our state workers and barely offsetting part of it. Some and some of our state workers are going to fall through the cracks and are going to actually have to pay more. Because the pay raise isn't going to offset it. And, a lot of municipal workers are on PEIA, and the pay raise isn't going to affect them at all.
Mike, the big story dominating the news this week has been the state police story. The head guy, Jan Cahill, is out. Jack Chambers is in. And we all know the allegations, hidden cameras placed in gym areas, theft of money at Mardi Gras Casino, protocols not being followed, and some other incidents. Overall, what's your take on the whole thing?
I think one of the more, not to downplay any of the other parts of it, but I think a very serious part of it that's not getting talked about a lot is the misuse of federal funds and the setting up ghost accounts. I mean, they're all very serious charges. But what does this scandal have in common with any other thing that's gone on during the Justice Administration? What does it have in common with the culture at the DHHR, where they had to force the DHHR secretary to step down right before session? What does it have with the failure of the RISE program to get money out to people who were hit hard by the 2016 floods? What does it have in common with the fact that the CARES Act money wasn't spent properly, and now we're seeing that the ARPA money is not going to get spent? What do all these problems have in common? Well, I'll give you a clue. The initials are JJ. Jim Justice.
You sound more like Eric Tarr every day.
Well, here's something that's really indicative of the problem. When I read the article about Jan Cahill, and he said, well, I went and met with the governor at his home. Well, he wasn't talking about the governor's mansion here in Charleston, which happens to be where the governor's supposed to work from. He went to he went to Greenbrier County and met with the governor where the governor resides. And I'll go back to this, and people think it's not a big deal that the governor just thumbs his nose at the Constitution and refuses to live at the seat of government, but there's a reason that's in the Constitution, because this is where the work is being done. And the governor's not showing up for work. And I think that's one common thread you have in all these problems. When the boss doesn't show up, things go wrong.
And this is exactly what Eric Tarr said on the show yesterday. You guys are just BFFs now.
Well, that's a huge step for us, in our relationship. But I mean, unfortunately, I didn't listen to Senator Tarr on the show.
We'll go back and
but if you have me as the chair of the Democratic Party, okay, and a Democratic delegate in the legislature, and I didn't listen to Eric Tarr, but we're saying the same thing, well, maybe we're right. Okay, maybe it's because we're telling on this issue we are right. And if you have a governor who doesn't show up for work, then things happen. Things go wrong. And the evidence is in the body of work. So you have a culture of a bad culture at state police. You have a bad culture at the Department of Health and Human Resources. You had federal money that's being misspent or not spent at all where it's supposed to be. Well, the problem, fish rots from the head. And the buck's supposed to stop at the top, and that the governor needs to do his job.
I mean, I got several texts to get to. Another question from Pushkin says a texter. I got an email essentially saying service personnel would be getting less than the $2,300 pay raise. Is that true?
I believe so. It's not. It wasn't done just across the board. It's not going to offset the premium increase. And to do that, I'll get back to this too. For the legislature to do that and the governor to sign that, first of all, it was just about a year and a half ago, if that the governor said there would be no PEIA premium increase on his watch. It's not on my watch. But then on his watch, he signed the bill to jack up the premiums on our state workers and retirees. And they did this the very same year they saw fit to give themselves a huge pay raise. And I really think that, with a record number of freshmen Republican delegates and senators, I think that the freshmen got duped by leadership. I really do. And this is something that Eric Tarr and I might not agree on.
All right.
Because the big pay raises in duty days. All right. So the Senate President Craig Blair and committee chairs like Eric Tarr who can pay themselves for duty days, and that's when they're working in the off season. And there is work that's done in the off season. But I think Craig Blair's taken a record number of duty days. But that's where the real pay increase for legislators is. For them to do that and give themselves this huge pay raise within a week of raising premiums on state workers, it's just really, it's just disgusting.
Along those lines, text says, will the delegate be accepting a pay raise? Will you accept it?
I voted against it.
But will you accept it?
It's going to show up on it. Actually, my pay raise is minimal because I don't get duty days because I live in Charleston. I don't take a per diem because I live 5 minutes from the Capitol. I don't get reimbursements because I go home and make a sandwich. So I've never taken any more than the base pay, and the base pay is a minimal pay raise, but which I voted against.
Dave says the texture, the governor and West Virginia GOP are thieves, taking quote-unquote surplus money that wasn't spent on needed services and redistributing our state's wealth to themselves and their pet projects. 7,000 kids in foster care, and they're giving themselves raises. Sickening.
It is sickening. It is sickening.
All right.
And whatever the small amount is that shows up on I tell you what, I have no control over what's on my paycheck, the base paycheck. But I'll tell you what, whatever it is, I'll donate it to charity to answer your question.
All right. You Ryan, you heard that, right? Okay. Text says, where is our infrastructure monies from the Biden administration? Like to use it before China takes over our country.
Where is the infrastructure? It's it's been spent on a whole lot of things. If you look at a lot of the announcements that have been made by our Economic Development Office over the past several years, it's because of work that has been done by the Biden administration in those 2 years that he had with the Democratic-controlled Congress. He was able to get the Inflation Reduction Act done. He was able to get an infrastructure bill passed, and that money has been coming to West Virginia, and you can see the evidence of it. But it's not coming from the hard work of Jim Justice, who doesn't show up for work.
Text says, what about attracting health professionals? When the legislature passes silly and dangerous bills disrespecting health professionals and telling them what they can and can't do, they start looking to leave and definitely won't want to come to West Virginia.
You're right. And there's a big problem with it, that I've said this before. West Virginia has a people problem. We don't have enough of them. And our death rate outnumbers our birth rate here. It's really sad. And people just aren't moving here at a great enough pace to offset that. We're one of two states that actually lost population. And you and I have disagreed or have had arguments. We're one of the two states that have actually lost population over the past census. And we did not lose population when Democrats were in charge. We didn't grow at the same pace as other states. But all that aside, and I heard, was it last week, you had my counterpart in the Republican Party, Elgin McCardle, who's the chair of the Republican Party, who was telling people not to move here. If you don't like it, she's telling people to leave the state. That's ridiculous. Well, it's the exact opposite message that we should put out. And you
issued a statement about that. By the way, thanks for the shout out on the show. But that's not exactly what she said, Mike.
What did she say?
What she said is that you're welcome, I think, and I don't have it in front of me.
Play the tape. It was on. She said it in this chair. Play the tape.
Get the cassette ready to go, right? No, basically what she was saying was I was asking about these culture issues, is what I call them, the culture issues. And I said, do you think that will be, that all these things will keep people from wanting to come here or want to stay here? And she basically, I'm greatly paraphrasing, said, and I got to get to a call. She basically said that if you want to do these certain things, you can go to New York, you can go to California, and knock yourself out.
That's the wrong message.
But you won't be necessarily welcomed here.
Well, I think we should welcome everybody here, whether I agree with them politically or not. We shouldn't be telling anybody to stay. We should be bringing people in because we don't have enough doctors in our hospitals. We don't have enough nurses in our hospitals. We don't have enough teachers in the classroom. We don't have enough correctional officers in our jails and prisons. We don't have enough people working in CPS. We're at a crisis level because of staffing shortages, and you got the chair of the Republican Party telling people love it or leave it, telling people to get out of the state. It's ridiculous. She should apologize. She should come back on this show and apologize to the people of West Virginia for saying such an ignorant remark.
Let's go to the phones. Jim, you're on with Delegate Pushkin. Go ahead.
Thank you, Dave. Hello, Mike.
Hey, Jim. How have you been? Good to hear from you.
Oh, thank you. I'm doing better. The individual in the legislature that filed a suit against the governor for not working in Charleston, could he go back to the judge and say this has never been followed and bring it up again, or does he just throw up his hands and say, forget it?
All right, Jim, we're going to answer this off air because we got to go. Go ahead.
My good friend, former delegate Isaac Spinagle, who's an attorney, a very good attorney, he brought the suit against Justice. He won, and Jim Justice has thumbed his nose at the Constitution. He's thumbed his nose at the court order, and I think they should put an ankle bracelet on him and make sure he stays there.
Speaking of arrest, because we got to wrap this up, Donald Trump. Former President Donald Trump predicting over the weekend on social media that he would be arrested. Well, that has not happened.
No, do you know how I know? I knew it wasn't going to happen. You know how I knew that?
How's that?
Because Donald Trump said it, and he never tells the truth. He said he was going to be. He lied about being arrested. He's not going to be arrested. If he is indicted, he's a former president. He will be able to. I'm sure he will be given the courtesy of having to self-report. I'm saying what he is in trouble for. Let me get this out real quick. What he's in trouble for is the misuse of campaign funds. He is being accused of using campaign funds, which has meant people give you that to run a campaign, and using it to buy the silence of a former adult film star. So I think we have a congressman who's done the same thing. With Alex Mooney has been accused of misspending campaign funds. I guess the only difference is Donald Trump spent it on hush money, and Alex Mooney spent it on hush puppies.
You actually tweeted that once before. That was actually pretty funny.
It took me a long time to get to the punchline.
All right. Mike, as always, a pleasure to have you on the show. Unfortunately, we're going to have to go, and I know we had callers and texters to get to. Apparently, I'm going to have you back on, so because you get them going.
Well, yeah, I'd love coming back on.
All right. But I've started doing this thing with a rotating co-host on Friday. Tomorrow, I've got a good friend of mine, and maybe a good friend of yours, Rick Cavender from Charleston Main Street.
He's a great guy.
He's going to be on the show tomorrow, and so maybe I'm going to have you on one Friday, not to talk politics, just to talk about stuff with non-political. You think you can do it?
Sure. Is that the day you have dogs on?
Yes.
Okay, that'd be great. I love dogs.
Right.
So you have me on with the dogs.
All right, we got to go. We'll be back right after this. 580 Live is brought to you part by Riley's Tools of St. Albans, your home for quality case knives. Case knives, the epitome of American craftsmanship, and Riley's Tools in St. Albans, one of West Virginia's oldest Case Platinum dealers with pocket knives, sports knives, culinary knives, and specialty knives in stock, too. Visit their family-friendly store, 204 Main Street in St. Albans. All right, we got a new Chick-fil-A that is opening up in South Charleston. It's actually open today, and we're going to talk to the guy behind that coming up right after this from the Parmar Store Studio, 580 Live, brought to you by the Thornhill Auto Group on the Voice.